I don't know if you agree, but the stagnation on the offense, it's called an angle pick and roll, right? Where you run a spread pick and roll from the wing. And that's all we're seeing, one after another, one after another. And it is really dull basketball to watch too.
No, it is. And like someone who grew up, like when I started getting into basketball, that's when the Spurs were at their peak. And I'm kind of like a bandwagon Spurs fan and a closet Spurs fan because of that reason. You see what the Jazz are doing right now. Are the Jazz a top 5 talent team in the NBA? No, probably not. I would put 5 or 6 teams of pure talent, but they're playing the best basketball because they're passing around. Like you watch that Jazz team, that looks like the Warriors teams of the last few years. That looks like the Spurs teams of 14 and before. Maybe not on that level, but they're still playing that. It's pass, 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 pass. The flip side of that is, like you said, are the players that Jaylen and Jayson are or not passing to good enough players? I would say that right now, who's been playing the last few days, the bench talent hasn't been there. A lot of our bench players that we expect are either hurt or something else, or they're not playing on a back-to-back like that. And also, like, you have those two players who are both 25 to 28 point per game scorers as of what they've shown. You want them taking shots, and they can force a shot or two that probably you shouldn't, but I think every team has a player that does that, and they've been fine. You know, we were arguing, or not arguing, but I was talking today in the group chat where I don't think Jaylen and Jayson have to be these super shot creators for others. I think you can have a player that can do that and not be them. I mean, right now you have Jayson and Jaylen are about 4.5 and 4 assists a game. And obviously assists aren't an end-all be-all stat of passing, but they're still getting other players involved, mostly just because of the usage percentage. But you can have a guy, like if we take, for example, the Nuggets in 2009. You have Carmelo Anthony, who's a ball-dominant scorer who is not known for his passing. But you get that far because you have a Chauncey Billups, who can create for others and himself on occasions, but he's the guy who gets other people involved. And obviously you would love Jayson to become this Larry Bird type, I can do it all guy. You would love Jaylen Brown to be able to give you 6 assists, and he has shown to get a plethora of assists a night. I have him on fantasy, I know. But I don't think they have to be, I don't think they have to be those guys. I don't think they have to be these 7.5 plus assists guys. You can get guys like that. Marcus Smart is someone who, when he's in the game and when he's playing well, he's playmaking for other players. And when we were really good and when we were playing really nice, that's what he was doing. He was giving you 6 to 8 assists a game, letting Jayson and Jaylen do their thing. And they didn't really have to focus on that. I mean, look at Kawhi Leonard. Until basically this year, the year after, he hasn't been a good facilitator. This year, I think he's at like 6 or plus assists for the first time ever. He was really basically doing what Tatum does, and he gets assists due to usage percentage. But he's won championships, and he's been a top 3 to 5 player in the league for the past, 6 years or so? So I think there are ways to get around that. Passing should be up. I'm not saying that the way they're playing is perfect. They should be passing the ball more and trusting their teammates more. However, I don't think they have to become these 8 assists a game guys to win.
So do you think they're running these spread pick and rolls, angle pick and rolls, because there's no facilitator there at the moment, because there's nobody to tee them up when they're playing off ball? Because we see when Kemba Walker's on his game and he's causing defenses to push up on him, you'll see Tatum come off Iverson screens, you'll see Brown come off dribble handoffs, and it looks a bunch more fluid. It starts opening up the baseline for guys like Shemi or Neesmith to start drifting in. So is this where we decide that maybe Kemba Walker could do with having a backup point guard behind him that is specifically there to play make? Like, maybe Jeff Teague isn't that guy because he's another score first guard that came in. But if it was say the Celtics picked up Rondo instead of Teague, is this team in a better position once their starting unit sits?
I think so. I think if you look at the departure, Gordon Hayward obviously departed. But I think what he brought to the team more than anything was just another playmaker. So I think obviously he was a good scorer at all 3 levels and he was a good defender. But I think the playmaking that he brought really, and we didn't replace that. I think we did a good job at shoring up positions. When Cantor left, we got Tristan Thompson to be a rebounder and a better interior defender. You got Jeff T to come off, and his job was supposed to be scoring and being good, but we didn't get a playmaker after that. And I think they were relying too much on what they had, and where too much depth in maybe the last few years at some positions was seen as like this, oh, why do we have X amount of bigs and wings or whatever? Now it's, oh, 2 players are injured. Goodness, no one can pass the ball now. So I think that's the hindrance. And I think, like you mentioned, they're running these angle pick and rolls to kind of get them involved. I think it could be a little bit of an overcompensation. I think you have Jaylen and Jayson are both good spot up shooters and good isolation scorers, or at least that's where they like to do. And they've shown that they can get their points that way. I think they're best when they're attacking all 3 levels. I think both of them are really good mid-range shooters, or have the ability to be. I think both of them can get to the rim pretty well. Tatum, I've always had this, why doesn't he use his body more? His soft finishes and stuff like that. And I think once he misses 2 layups, he gets deterred and takes these 25-foot shots. I'm like, bro, stop that. But I think when they're in that rhythm, and I think they're just trying to get themselves there, but it's just not working. And then you have this bogged down offense where no one's passing, everyone's upset. You have the things are being thrown in the locker room, I guess, but then also no, I don't know. It's just tough. You can see the issue, but then you just don't see where the solution is, kind of,
This is the problem for me, right? Like, I feel like you bring in Jeff Teague because Jeff Teague's that veteran voice that you need coming off the bench to replace Brad Wanamaker, because Brad Wanamaker, for the fact he had veteran age, he was still a sophomore in the NBA. He wasn't experienced. So you bring in Jeff Teague, but then you go and draft Peyton Pritchard, which is basically everything you want Jeff Teague to be, but young. So he doesn't get tired as quickly, and he doesn't have the ego of a 12, 13, 14-year NBA vet. He's coming humble. So now Jeff Teague and what he was supposed to bring to the table, isn't required because you've got that from Peyton Pritchard, and you'd much rather develop him because you've got him for the next 4 or 5 years, 3, 4, you know what I mean? And now everything that Jeff Teague's doing wrong is amplified more because you're like, well, these minutes should be going to Pritchard, and Teagues came in to give us this and he's not doing it. Maybe we should have looked at Rondo, or maybe we should have looked at making a small trade to possibly bring in somebody like George Hill, which I understand why people want Hill, but again, he's not the distributor that we're kind of saying. And we're not saying it has to be a guard, right? There's wings.
Someone that can play make.
And that's where, for me, other than the lack of playmaking, whether that be in the first starting lineup or the bench unit, the other issue to me is just the glaring hole at 4, dude. Like, there's so many, you can see as well, like, if you start Shemi Ojale there, then that's fine, but you're really losing out on a bit of size. You're losing out on athleticism, so you can't run transition too much because outside of Jaylen Brown, Javonte Green, and Robert Williams, 2 of those guys are on the bench. Where's your fast break outlets coming from? And then you can stretch the floor because Shemi's got that, but Shemi can't attack closeouts. So if you close out on Shemi quickly, that offensive advantage is dead. And that's one of the biggest things for me as well, is what are they going to do to shore up that 4 position? When Smart's back, are they going to slide him back in and run with Brown at the 3 and Tatum at the 4? Or are they going to want to bring Romeo in after the All-Star break and let Romeo kind of work his way back to fitness, just because of the perimeter defense he brings and the fact that you're giving him minutes, and they don't have to be big minutes, but he might actually complement everybody else around him due to the nature of his game and slashing? Or do you just decide, hey, Grant Williams don't fit here no more, let's make a small move centered around Grant Williams to try and bring in somebody that can shore up this starting lineup?
I say you just put Romeo out there 1 versus 5 and win every game for the rest of the time.
I mean, do not think that you're getting out of this podcast without doing your poem.
I did find it. I did tell you I did find my Romeo poem. So I'll bless.
We'll end on that. We'll make sure to end on that.
But it's interesting. I like Grant, and I think he worked really well last year. I really don't know what's going on with him this year. Maybe I just haven't been paying too close attention, but I know he hasn't been getting the minutes he was. I know last year he was on and off. He was going between the G League and whatnot. But I do like Grant. I really don't want to give up on him, but it's a mid-20s round pick, like late 20s pick. Like, he's not like supposed to be this huge guy. Obviously, I think Romeo's a big X factor here. I think the minutes we saw from Romeo last year, when healthy, were at least good. I mean, he played good defense, better defense than I would have thought. I think he was a little timid offensively, but when he did score and he got to the basket a couple times, he hit a couple shots. I think he showed promise. Like, I was picked in the lottery for a reason. I could be a lottery guy. And I think he works well just with that perimeter defense from what we saw last year and what he could be this year. I would love when Romeo comes back. Obviously, I love Romeo. I typed in my name here. Cody loves Romeo. I don't know if you can see that, but I did because I love Romeo.
I can see that. People watching can't see that.
People watching, but no, I love Romeo more than you do, and you're welcome. If you love Romeo, it's my fault that he's here. So you're welcome, by the way.